Until the year 2021, the Forum for Democratic Change was Uganda's leading opposition party ever since we adopted the multi-party dispensation in 2005, when it was dislodged by the National Unity Platform. And, well, in the past couple of weeks, the party has been marred with so much controversy, and this has come to the media as we have seen it, starting from the Honorable Ssemujju Nganda's press conference, later on to Nandala Mofabi and team, later on to Kano, Dr. Kiza Besigye, and so much has been unpacked. And the most recent being the sacking of the FDC chief whip in Parliament. Well, we shall look at if is the boat sinking in the Forum for Democratic Change, and can it be salvaged, and how best can that be done? We shall also look at the Justice Byabakama-led EC that did release to us the 2026 electoral roadmap. And of course, he did mention that should there be any electoral reforms, they should be fast-tracked before time, so that the country can be prepared for that election. Viewers, welcome to this episode of the Citizens Chat Show. I'm joined by our regular guests and panelists on this show. That is now my honor to introduce to you, and in no particular order. From the Uganda People's Congress is an ideologue and a media personality, rather, by the names of Joseph Ocheno. Joseph, we are very happy to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here discussing some of the same old things, but with Mr. still on 40 years later. Interesting.
And I'm glad that you have sat near Moses, because I'm sure that things they just learned from you.
He's a fantastic guy, yes.
Yes, next to Joseph is Moses Byamugisha. Moses is a lawyer by profession and also a Forum for Democratic Change mobilizer. I also know that he attempted to be party president at some point. How did that go, Moses?
Thank you very much, Civic Space, for hosting me, and good afternoon, the viewers of Civic Space TV. I'm happy to be here. And so does that question mean that we start off? Because I thought my senior brother was going to introduce.
Okay. Let us hold you right there. I'll come back to you.
Maybe your senior brother will tell us whether where's the next chairman of NRA.
Well, thank you. Next to myself is Dr. Sarah Brete. The doctor is a panelist on this very prominent talk show, and she's the executive director of Center for Constitutional Governance. Doctor, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, and glad to be back always. Good afternoon, viewers.
Good afternoon. And the last but not least is from the National Resistance Movement, and that is its Director of External Relations.
The Mass Party.
The Mass Party, as they call it.
Allegedly.
Retired.
People supplying with that money.
Retired Major Awishkwala is the name. Retired Major Karibuni.
Good evening, viewers, and indeed I'm from the Mighty Party, but you always mention others' profession and you forget mine. You see, my worry is that it creates the impression that NRM doesn't have competent cadres. When you choose to mention their lawyers, I am a lawyer, and actually a senior lawyer. So let the viewers know that NRM don't send incompetent cadres. I'm a lawyer by all standards.
Yeah.
But the money, we don't have that money. I think somebody hinted that it was new denomination. If that is something.
So you mean that including, meaning in the literal sense?
Well, let us just delve straight away. Moses, you're from the party that is on the media today. First of all, which side do you belong? Are you with the Najana Nkumbi or Katonga?
I'm against the people who fell in dirty money into the party.
Suppose that was a different question. Are you against this?
Could you describe for us what dirty money means exactly?
For some time now we learn that there has been an operation to bring FDC on its knees. FDC, for some good years now, looking at its inception in 2005, it had occupied a very special place in the hearts of Ugandans. as a party that had a national character, a party that had representation from border to border. And Ugandans clearly through the election had demonstrated that they had confidence in it. So I think that did not go away with Awich, Comrade Awich and team. And so they began an operation to put it down. And several attempts, I think, were always made, but this time around it appears they have done it rather more smartly. As we know now, in the 2021 elections, some of our members, our leaders, sat somewhere, held meetings, organized a budget, which budget was submitted, and State House released funds, which we do not know how much it was. And we do not know from there where it went, because it did not come officially into the party coffers. And so there were attempts to have those issues resolved. I've seen a lot of debate in the public of, oh, why are these things coming up now? Why now? These things came out even before Amriat was nominated. When the FDC party was still handling internal primaries, those questions were raised. Because that's when the whistleblower got intelligence that money had started to come in. And so they started to raise this. But now, because there was a general election going on, the party was going into a general election, the whistleblower did not want to be seen to jeopardize the general election, the candidates, the FDC candidates campaign. And so they kept it low. But he started to ask individuals, this is what I am hearing, what is going on. He has already explained, so I will not go into details. Now, about 4 meetings took place in closed door until they could not explain, and instead they asked the whistleblower, you are asking us who? So he realized, there it's getting tough. Let's leave it at that. So there was a national council last year, and he was, Dr. Besigye was invited as a keynote speaker. And in his comments, trying to give guidance to the party in terms of how they should internally reorganize, he commented about streamlining usage of funds of the party. And he hinted and said, for example, I have intelligence that data money came into the party in the general elections. FDC is unique in a way that in our DNA, we have never thought that we can survive. One of the ways of our survival as a party is to try and collaborate with the people that we intend to remove in power. That is why when someone is branded to be working with the regime, people get so agitated. And so when that issue was raised, National Council recommended that there should be a committee of elders to investigate it and also ensure that there is a peaceful resolution of those issues. And as Ugandans now know, the committee came out, made recommendations, and all this drama that has been going on. So questions have been in since 2020 up to today.
Just a follow-up question with you, Moses, is that isn't the FDC being short-sighted to imagine that you want to dislodge President Museveni and his regime only by working from outside? Aren't there avenues through which you can cooperate with those change? Because I want to assume that there could be change-seeking individuals within the NRM as well. So if you're to cut them out completely, aren't you losing an opportunity? Maybe the Nandalas are seeing certain, potential allies in the NRM. By picking money. And that is why they have no issue with collaborating with them.
You see, when we were young, we used it to hunt. In Rukunjiri, we used it to hunt. And when you go for hunting, there are those who have a net, there are those who have spears, there are those who are directing dogs. Different political parties have taken different approaches in making a contribution or resolving the governance crisis that we find ourselves in as a country. My senior colleague, I'm sure, has been very equivocal on how he was let down by his other colleagues who thought that by working with the regime, perhaps along the way, it can be a mechanism of solving the governance crisis that we have. But FDC in particular had never considered that as one of our approaches.
Okay, noted. Retired Major, the dirty money in courts that is being mentioned and that is being attached to the NRM or to State House, how true or how untrue is that?
Well, first the coinage of the term dirty. I don't know who coined it. I don't know whether it is Besje or the same with you, because as a party we don't have dirty money and we don't give dirty money. If we were to give money to friends and colleagues, it is clean money. Now, even in FDC, they have not said they got money from us. Even us, the person they alleged to have given money has not said he gave money. Now, so it is difficult at this stage to know whether we gave money or they received money. Because even in FDC, those who are alleged to have got money have not come out clearly to say, yes, on such and such a day, we got money from NRM. Neither Museveni or somebody said, yes, on such and such a day, we gave out money. So it is still incomplete. But overall and above is that for us as a revolutionary party, we believe that other political actors are not enemies. They are opponents. We are struggling to democratize and bring Uganda up. And that's why we have IPOD. We act even institutionally, even with FDC. So if in the event of the exercise, a colleague party comes to us and wants help or has fallen down, we lift them up. And then we have the fair competition. We have no problem with that.
So it is.
But let's first confirm whether they said they got money from us or confirm from our people whether we gave them money. But in the event that it did happen, that shows to you that our competition as NRM, we don't take other actors as enemies. We take other actors like opponents in a football pitch. When Uganda Cranes is playing with the Harambee Stars of Kenya, it's not because Kenyan team are enemies. It's just because they are opponents in the game. And that's why when one falls up, you lift it up. You lift him up. So it's okay for us. We act in good faith. We are democratic. And that is the image we put. So any other party, including the Congress, including NUP, if in the act of computation they fall down, it's however in the eyes of the voters to know that these contestants, this one who is contesting and falls down and is helped, why don't I go with the strong one who seem to have better vision, better capacity, and is even humane enough to pull this one who fall down? So it is upon the voters, and I pray that the voters see it that way, that they would side with the player who is stronger than other players, the players who doesn't see other players as enemies, the players who picks the other player when he has fallen, the player who even gives the other one water to drink when he's tired, and that is NRM.
Okay, so you've put it as the NRM is a good sportsman, and that when the opponent is down, they can lend an uplifting arm. So could that support have been financial could that good sportsmanship have been financial in any way?
That's why I started by saying even the perceived receiver has not said they received from us. Even the alleged giver has not come out. So we can't conclude the comment for now. Okay. If somebody has better facts than that, then it's free to give.
All right.
But I am just saying, in case it happened, that is the parameter and the spirit in which we act.
Okay, thank you. Doctor, the Dr. Nawiso committee did exonerate Amuriat and Nandala, and said that there was no evidence, and I think that is what Major is saying, that there was no evidence that implicates the accused. I don't know how does that report sort of where does it leave this particular investigation? That is one. Two is that the people who are alleging have not mentioned. So could there just be rumor mongering in all this?
Well, I think what came out of the Dr. Nabuiso report was a statement to say that the whistleblower never mentioned who their source of information. We all know general whistleblower principles. If today you were a whistleblower, for example, URA, which Uganda Revenue Authority, which gives cash prizes to whistleblowers, all you need to do is to go to URA and say, Center for Constitutional Governance is not paying taxes. Then it's up to URA to check their records. Have they received the tax from Center for Constitutional Governance? And if not, what is happening? And once they confirm that one single statement from a whistleblower helped them recover money, then you are entitled to 10% of it. The same applies to IGG. A whistleblower is not supposed to be an investigative expert to give you all the information and say, I have the report, I have the evidence. Even in journalism, there is where your sources are not comfortable being mentioned. Investigative journalism allows you to cross, not to mention your sources. Even in a video, you have seen people being covered and their voices tilted so that you don't immediately not who is speaking, to avoid repercussions. So whistleblowership is not, I think it was the most lame excuse. If I have told you as a whistleblower that money came in, your job as an investigative committee is to say which monies came to the party. Where did it come from? And where is the money trail? Because in money you look for the trail. You don't need individuals. Individuals come in. When they collide with the trail, you are following. So there was an allegation that the FDC got a loan. What are the procedures for a party to process a loan? Who should know? Who should approve? Who is a signatory? And what is the payment procedure? I had an opportunity of being on another show with one of the people from the side of dirty money. I asked him, are you paying back? If you got a loan in 2020, the party would by now be paying back. And the money trail would be clear. That from maybe contributions from Electoral Commission out of FDC's numerical strength, this percentage goes to Stanbic or whatever bank it was to service the loan. Did the Nabuiso report establish this? Nothing. So
what did the person say?
They said they did not investigate the money because the whistleblower did not mention the source. A very lame excuse, legally, journalistic and otherwise. It was a shame because that committee was composed of eminent persons. It is a shame. They should have, at least in the report, stated, for example, the money that came into the party with a clear money trail, the sources. If there is a loan, is the party servicing the loan? Nobody knows. And Biamjaya can confirm. Nobody knows whether FDC is servicing the loan. So what loan are they talking about 3 years down the road that they are not servicing? Isn't that evidence of a missing link? So to me, I think, based on that, that there was no attempt by the committee to establish the funds that came into the party with a money trail. And if the excuse also which came out of the report that the so-called leaders procured their own, what is the process of a party procuring a loan? What is the security? Who are the guarantors? Procuring a loan is a very long process. And with a trail of paper.
From where?
With a paper trail.
And from
Doctor,
which
And
bank?
from which bank?
Doctor.
All that information I don't think is available. So what kind of work did they do?
Doctor, let me just ask for the ordinary viewer out there, is that what would be the detriment per se if indeed the Nandala group received money from State House or from President Museveni? What would be the problem with that exactly? I'm asking for the ordinary viewer out there.
FDC, I'm sure, has sources they consider enemy sources. And that goes to explain what is the meaning of dirty money in politics. Dirty money in business means dirty procured through illegal sources, which you try to give to charity or other groups to clean it up. That's the meaning of dirty money in business. In politics, dirty money means money coming from prohibited sources. So the question of dirty money.
So, okay, is what
By
makes,
the time
what
money,
makes the NRM or State House a prohibited source of?
Let me try to explain you. I don't know the inside dealings of FDC. That question should go to Moses, that particular one. But let me use our laws, or electoral laws. In our electoral laws, presidential, parliamentary, local government, each law mentions prohibited sources, if any. So even in a session towards elections, if there is any prohibited source, where any contender in Uganda's leadership should not get funds, evidence is laid on the floor of the House, and the sources are documented as prohibited sources. We have several laws that even have prohibited sources of money, including Anti-Terrorism Act, the groups where no individual, no business, no actor should get money. I'm using that to explain. As I told you, I'm not an insider in FDC, I'm just an observer. So nationally, we have these sources, and there is evidence why a particular source is prohibited. For example, if you are talking of the Islamic fundamentalism, Islamic State, the reason is known. They fund and promote terrorism. Everybody is prohibited from getting money from such groups. So I'm just using that as an example. Normally, we have countries added towards elections. I want to use an example of 2021, where Rwanda was added on the list of prohibited sources for the 2001 elections. Evidence was adduced in the House as well. Why no Ugandan should get political funding from Rwanda? So nationally, the laws require that if there is any institution, any state, any individual who you think can work against the sovereign interests of Uganda, you adduce evidence on the floor of the parliament, and through that act, every Ugandan is put on notice that this source don't deal with them because they are an enemy to our interests as a country. Okay. For the case of a party, I don't know their enemy sources, but I'm using that to demonstrate. Moses Byamcha said that it is a strategy in FDC not to get money from the people they are trying to to forge from power. Whether it is documented or not, I don't know. He has the details. So that's what makes it, that source, prohibited. Okay. Either through strategy or through explicit mention that you don't get money from this source. So I want to comment as I conclude. Dr. Kizza Besigye produced serial numbers recently, I think 2 days ago, as to the source of money, and the trace goes to Bank of Uganda. This I'm stating beyond the politics crisis. I think it also builds into a national crisis. Because as our funder which was saying, they are not aware they've given money. One would like to know what are the sources of NRM political money. Do their sources include Bank of Uganda? Okay, or this is taxpayers' money being used fraudulently in our politics?
Okay, Doctor, just for clarity, isn't every money that we hold from Bank of Uganda?
But yes, but if you followed the Besigye's declaration of source, he said it was a bundle, fresh bundle, And when he
Bank of Uganda to
investigated
State House,
further,
to State House,
it
yeah.
was from
How?
Bank of Uganda to
Who
State House,
saw
the
it?
batch. That is his own
Because
confirmation.
I think every money comes from Bank of Uganda.
No. First get
Even
me.
the one in Chikubu.
Just
Yes.
first get me properly.
So how is that exactly?
Moses,
illegal?
why I'm bringing this? This was a batch of money from Bank of Uganda
To State House.
State House.
How
a
we
batch.
saw it?
A batch. According to Besige, I'm quoting Besige. And this is where he got the serial numbers he had used. And even as of today, those serial numbers can be traced because they are in the system. He had used them and they are in the media. I saw that this in Daily Monitor. So for me, the question I raise as a Ugandan is Bank of Uganda money now use it? Because this is taxpayers' money. If you say a batch moved from Bank of Uganda to State House to FDC, is this an indication of abuse of taxpayers' money by Bank of Uganda?
Okay, we shall look into that. But Joseph, the Congress is or has been a victim of what the FDC is undergoing right now. Should they have known better to have taken your example and avoided what they're going through now?
No, we haven't gone through what FDC is going through. But just to qualify your question to Sarah, Sarah could legitimately have asked you that since you were asking her why it might be wrong or the problem with Museveni giving money to FDC, Sarah could legitimately have asked you what would be the object of Mr. Museveni generously giving money to FDC.
That was answered by him.
Answered.
Sportsman.
The sports player.
That is actually quite strange. But number two, bringing the point that Sarah still raised, that new money comes from Bank of Uganda, new in the bundled stuff, goes to NRA headquarters, which is now occupying State House. And that new bunch of money that has not gone to Chikubu, has not bought maize, has not paid the rent, has not softened up, is still bundled, net new. So basically, tick, tick, tick.
Comes
So tick,
to this,
NRA Museveni, occupied headquarters, State House, tick to FDC. That is really strange. And Moses, you're a young man, a budding young lawyer. We don't know when your first wages are going to be, when you're going to be established your law firm. You should be very worried, young man. Very, very worried that money is belonging to you, being played around with and by Mr. Museveni. That I meet many students, law students, including yesterday, at my home, struggling to pay fees, some struggling to pay for accommodation. UPC, we used to provide them free. Museveni, the entire lot. That is cheeky. Gets on my nerves. We educated those funny guys for free. Public money, meaning mobilized money for them. Now Ugandan children are not able to go to school. Many of them drop out. Last week, I was in Tororo. I met a young man who got an A in mathematics. An A in mathematics. He's been seated in Agongera.
was not put on government discussion.
Got an A plus, whatever. He was not. So he's dangling in Agongera without a job. He's now working for some voluntary organization, one of this health kind of stuff. That is the contextual implication of this thing, away from the relevance of your question. It is cheeky, it's theft. That money comes from, to emphasize, Bank of Uganda, our bank, National Bank, gets money, takes to Museveni's office, that dubious office, which is being contested anyway. Money comes from there. Museveni voluntarily offers in goodwill, according to Comrade Which, sympathetic till Bambi, some guys in FDC can have it. So, may God help those ones who pretend taking communions by the day, but they're busy thieving our monies. But that said, yes, there have been individuals in UPC, money is good. Don't you see how Which smiles? He knows that when new notes are new, particularly men, they like to boast with these things. So now there have been a few individuals in UPC who had deals and taken up by Mr. Museveni And, those ones are there and we're battling with them. But if you consider what happened in FDC, this is slightly much more nuanced, isn't it, Sarah? Slightly much more nuanced. Because they fund political campaigns, fund individuals, and individuals are saying no. The people in UPC, Beta Mong is basically dancing in NRA openly with the ministerial position. Jimmy, my brother, one thing in the morning is neither here nor there, kind of stuff. Related, but not the same. So the lessons are slightly different. But that said, I think Ugandans need to be demanding more. It's very tempting because I found it very conflicting, even for me to take sides, because we're entitled to an opinion. Which side do I agree with or side with, even those of us independent, because this is our Ugandan friends, But the point should possibly not even be about what Besigye did or did not, under the circumstances. So long as this thing comes up, I'll bring it back to this point. Whose money is that? That is public money.
Okay, just Joseph, I want to follow up something with you. And let me speak like a layman completely. Does Parliament of Uganda allocate money to State House? For whatever reasons, be it to the president or anything.
Yes, and it goes through the Treasury, not Bank of Uganda.
The Treasury.
Not the Bank of Uganda.
So
that official allocation goes through Ministry of Finance and the Treasury, not the Bank of Uganda.
So does that money eventually come with a serial number?
Yes.
Of course.
It does.
Yes.
So then why are we only looking at the serial number from the point of it came from Bank of Uganda straight to State House
because
and not through the official processes?
Let me answer this. That's the one who raised it.
And you're a lawyer because you're surprising me, but then carry it.
So official budget money goes through the Treasury by our Secretary to Treasury, Ministry of Finance. Direct money picked from Bank of Uganda is illegal and abused. And I know there are vans which pick money from Bank of Uganda regularly. So, any direct, even when government of Uganda wants to borrow money from Bank of Uganda, it comes to the Treasury.
Yes.
So
I also want to answer that
question. So, any direct batch, straight Bank of Uganda to Moses, Bank of Uganda, State House, it's illegal.
Okay.
Okay, you tell us.
Okay, just a comment from you, then I want to move to Moses.
Also, was I finished? Okay.
You see, the procedure that Sarah says that comes through the Treasury is correct, but she mixes it up later. Sarah has ever worked in government. What happens is, various ministries, which state houses, you can consider it as that, as their votes, okay? Which is appropriated in the budget. But there are some government branches who have, from that vote, they pick from State House because of the bulk of the money. But it is actually through the Treasury. But only that is there. Sarah knows that there was a time, even allowance per diem to go out of Uganda.
Same thing with me.
No, to
official
go to
money through the Treasury.
For you are saying it goes through the Treasury. And maybe you are saying you should pick it from Stanbic Bank or Standard Bank.
I did say that.
I'm saying, even if it is from the Treasury, it is picked from Bank of Uganda. You are kind of insinuating like a vote from the ministry must not be picked from Bank of Uganda. It must be picked from Stanbic Bank or any other bank. No, you get the point.
That was my...
But even per diem, Sarah, you remember in government, that even if I was going to Kitgum for 1 week, I'm given a check, I even cash from Bank of Uganda.
I've never done
Can
that.
I
remember that.
But yes, banks were, actually for your information, the person who used to cash was the wife of Professor Gengala Tigu. She was the cashier paying cash to people when you have Bank of checks from ministries signed by PS, you get cash from Bank of Uganda. And it was given. Actually, I can provide another name. There was also the wife of Brigadier Wacha Angmulu. They were the one giving cash.
People.
So no.
But the money from the Treasury, the thing is, even if you were a Minister of Agriculture and you have money in bulk, which is your vote, you can pick from Bank of
You know,
Uganda.
Awich is a very clever guy, and you must really give him to him. But this is really diverting from the whole issue. Meaning that even if what Awich is saying is true, the specifics of what we're saying here is that money came from Bank of Uganda to State House.
Is it
And what is
from
wrong
State
with
House,
that?
illegal?
no, it's not. And then from State House,
And what is
from
wrong with
State
that?
House to FDC. Now, which department
So what,
is that?
what vote is
But
that?
Meaning that it could even
Then
if
we
that
have to
for
clear
argument-
one thing
for
at a
argument's
go.
sake,
We have
even-
to clear
if-
the
even if
question
that
which
move-
is answered now is it's not wrong
Is it illegal
for
for
Ministry of
Bank-
Agriculture. It is not wrong.
It is
for
wrong. It's
State House
not
to
wrong.
get money from
It is
Bank
not
of
wrong
Uganda.
from Ministry of
What you are
Agriculture.
now querying
You're right,
should
yes.
be if Ministry of Agriculture got their right money from Bank of Uganda. Now you are querying
you
where
use
it
it?
went to.
Where it
Yes,
went to.
where
So
it
that's-
went to
yes.
the
That
In,
one
in,
can
which,
be
in, which,
answered.
in which case, under the circumstances,
So
because
have we clarified-
you guys, let's not
have
play.
we
No, let's not play.
clarified
Let's not play the same.
that money coming from Bank of Uganda to State House is not illegal per se.
It is
Okay,
not.
It is not
but
legal.
for
It is
what
not.
vote?
But yeah,
For what
So
vote?
we can now interrogate what it was used for.
yeah,
which is
that
what
money,
we agree
that money
on.
came from Bank of Uganda to State House
To FDC.
to FDC, meaning that had money gone from Bank of Uganda, say to Electoral Commission, for argument's sake,
That would
something
be
like
fine.
that, it would be say maybe it was one of those batches which went to FDC for a particular reason, maybe relating to electoral whatever, maybe their balance which remained.
it's
But
okay.
why from State House
But
to
that's
it is
FDC?
not illegal
You know?
to get to State House from Bank of
But
Uganda.
also government outlawed cash beyond 20 million.
And to bring in
Do they follow their regulations?
Moses still on the
There's a
issue.
standing question because
Okay.
since we're learning parliamentarians,
Okay.
so
The
government.
government has laws prohibiting cash beyond 20 million. Do they observe those laws?
Again, I think there's a misconception there. I stand to be corrected. What is outlawed is one single check not to pass that limit. In other words, if you want 40 million
Cannot
per
mark
check,
projects.
you can issue this in this check, this in this. But there's no outlawing that don't carry more than 20 million. No. The outlawing is a issuing
So
per
you people
check.
go to Bank of
think-
Uganda and
I think-
collect bullions.
I think Councillor Which has clarified
Yes.
that.
Bullions
Councillor
of
Which
money.
has clarified. But Moses, the chief whip of the FDC in Parliament has been sacked. There are questions around the legality of that particular letter by the Secretary General. Does that letter meet the legal standards? Does by virtue of that letter, Semuju cease to be the FDC chief whip in Parliament, or there are certain legal procedures that must be followed therein?
Following the revelation regarding that money, the leadership at Najana Nkumbi went into panic mode, and quite a number of things have happened. Executive orders, decrees through writing. But there quite a number of letters have come out. Not only not the disciplinary one only, not only the one of removing the whip. They are busy even whipping district leaders.
What powers? do they have?
They are writing, they write to Kunjira and they say, Shamosi, you've been removed as a supervisor, we've replaced you with the Comrade Awich. They're already doing that. Letters are busy coming out.
Through what process?
So usually in FDC, when anyone is going to take up, when it is considered that Comrade Joseph Ochieno should be appointed on a particular position, especially now looking at Parliament, let's say commissioner, ROP, or anything, a name is suggested by the party president to the National Executive Committee. National Executive Committee. Not any other committee. I had someone last evening talking about working committee. National Executive Committee. The NEC receives such a suggestion. They look into it. They can accept or reject. I remember during Dr. Vesje, there is a name that was rejected. Dr. Vesje proposed Cecilia Guar for leader of opposition. And when he took the name to NEC, NEC had its reasons and rejected the name. And that's when they appointed someone else. So NEC has power to approve or disapprove a name of anyone that the executive has considered should be appointed. So that's what should have happened even in this case of changing remove of Honorable Semuju, putting Honorable Sebambi. That did not happen. They have actually, I've seen on social media, people have brought back the appointment letter where Semuju and others were appointed in the parliamentary positions, including Pan-African Parliament. And they are comparing the two letters. And in that old letter, the Secretary General is indicating that there was a NEC meeting that sat, which he is not doing in this letter, because indeed there was no NEC meeting. But whereas we know, Semuju...
Because, Moses, why I ask is that you may remember that the Honorable Jara Mapenduzi was appointed by the NUP to chair the Park local government. When he was disappointed, the Speaker of Parliament did not enforce the NUP decision and gave certain directions. So the question is, does the Secretary General's letter, does it have to wait for the Speaker's approval before it can come into force, or by virtue of its indication, Semuju ceases to be a chief whip? I don't know.
Yes. Usually for such appointments, when the Speaker announces on the floor, either allocation into a particular committee or leadership of a committee or occupation of an office, that's when it becomes effective.
So at this point,
because he's being appointed following the Administration of Parliament Act, and the person who superintends over the implementation of that act at Parliament is the Speaker. So when the Speaker announces, it takes effect. So what normally happens is that there is backdoor lobbying, there is backdoor politics before those letters are sent. Like you've heard, Sebambi said that he was contacted 2 days before the public got to know, before the letter came out, he was contacted. So it means even...
So has the Speaker confirmed? Because the House will sit Tuesday next week.
I think I haven't followed that. Now, the interesting thing about these events is that the moment the letter came out, Semuju, because of also the position he had taken, he also gave up and handed over. I saw Sebambi say, "I've already taken over office. I'm already working." So meaning he has already occupied the office. Because in this case, Semuju was also, I think, interested in not working with the Amriat again.
Okay, just a follow-up on that is that who is Sebambi? I've listened to him speak, and he said that in the recent elections, he in fact did not support the Honorable Amriat in his district, Rakai in PG. He supported NUP, and he said that he did campaign for your party leader, neither did he campaign for FDC flag bearers in his district.
FDC in Uganda.
So now, what I ask myself is, the FDC is placing its bet on someone with such a track record.
Semuju campaigned for Amuriat.
Where does that leave the party?
The Honorable Sebambi, I think, looked at the dynamics on the ground in his constituency and chose a strategy of mixing blue and red. And blue and red was on posters, on his dress code, on branding of cars, it was blue and red. While he was nominated on the FDC ticket and could maintain some semblance of blue, but he worked with the NUP. I actually don't know on the ground whether I don't think there was a NUP candidate there.
There was
a NUP candidate.
Yes.
Yeah, but somehow he also went to Kamwatch to try and talk to them to politically negotiate a survival
mark on his loyalty.
Yeah, but you know now, Najana Nkumbi team is in a panic mode. I already told you. They are looking at, because everyone has withdrawn, they are looking at who can, so whoever is willing to work with them now, even if he's Comrade Awich, they are willing to deploy him. Because now everyone is pulling back.
You're not suggesting they'll be very excited if
yes. So they are willing to deploy everyone.
Komeda wetu with help in sportsmanship.
Good sportsmanship.
And resource mobilization.
But I'm
So-
instead
so-
seeing it like I'm being given like a worst case scenario. You see, just a minute, during the campaign, the wave that swept Uganda under NUP, there was a statement that vote for anybody, umbrella. And they added, even if it is a Nanga. Meaning that a Nanga was the worst case scenario. Now if you say working with a witch, as if I'm the worst case scenario.
But
As if a witch is the worst case scenario.
I wish you know in Nanga, my
I guess
brother.
that statement.
Yes, but
That's what
conclude.
they said. So am I the worst case scenario?
But conclude that the National Council previously had sat and recommended about 3 things that should be done to build harmonization within the FDC. One was that there should be a meeting between the party president together with his team, and then they should meet the FDC parliamentary caucus. That is one. 2, that there should be a retreat of the National Executive Committee because it has not sat for over 3 months. And that is why you see NEC members have to go in hotels for them to be able to air views. Najana Nkumbi is a no-go area for some of the NEC members. And so they had recommended a retreat. They go somewhere, box themselves, and come back when they are 1 people. The third one was this elders committee. Now, going back to the issue of the parliamentary, so the party president met MPs of FDC. When he met them, they were unkind to some of the things that he was trying to do, especially regarding the roadmap and the Electoral Commission. And they made some recommendations in that meeting, some of which the president was not comfortable with. So the MPs that he would have worked with to appoint as whip, the legitimate ones, are not there. He had to find someone who needed cleansing. So for Nsibambi, he accepts this because he needed that kind of cleansing to appear in good books with the leadership, because he knew what he went through. He knew the kind of comments he had made. So to be seen, to be appointed, he gladly accepted the appointment because he needed to be cleansed politically and look new and an acceptable child within the home.
Wow, so he's trying to reconcile.
Yes.
Retired Major, the NUP gave you a run for your money in the most recent election. With the happenings in the Forum for Democratic Change and the cracks that we are seeing, aren't they empowering NUP? I mean, isn't NUP going to benefit from this kind of confusion? I mean, should we have some members breaking off and joining NUP? Aren't you creating a stronger NUP that will give you the bloody nose in the next election?
Your question is very clear, and I will answer it, but allow me to make comments for which I have passed in. First of all, on the issue of the acceptability or the legality of the new chief whip. He has already mentioned that the former chief whip gave in, and the new chief whip took over. So the status quo has changed. But I would think that it should only be seen from the level of exit, from the exit, especially of the letter from the FDC and the recipient from the speaker. Now, if the Secretary General missed out internal procedures, because right now we have not read the law, the applicable law in totality. Maybe there is an exception which gives power to the Secretary General to act even when NEC has not sacked. So we don't know. But I think for now, at the recipient level, it would be wrong for the speaker to poke her nose into the steps that are omitted from the party. All the speaker should, I think, knows is a letter coming from the Secretary General. For example, if the law says the Secretary General of NRM will write. So the speaker should just know NRM Taodwong has written. The speaker should not bother to look into opening the veil and say, Taodwong, you have written. Did you meet us next? No, it shouldn't be our work. It shouldn't go there. The aggrieved party in this case, the Semuju, would challenge inside the party, but not in the parliament. So then he could use appropriate measures and procedures to challenge it. But I think it should now be the exit of the letter and the recipient of the letter. And the speaker should not poke her nose over and above inside party affairs, whether you missed a process and do what.
I think what Ndugu Byamchisha was saying was that he wasn't aware whether the speaker had formally acknowledged.
Yes,
because
that's why I'm
change
just
of
giving a
whips
warning.
is acknowledged on the floor.
Yeah, that's what I'm warning, that the speaker shouldn't go beyond.
No, Parliament has been on recess till
yes, so that is my comment about the acceptance of the chief whip. I also like to comment about a data that a congressman gave about an A student. So you see, I do this because we are talking to the people and we imprint on their mind. I'm worried about the congressman's data. Because one time he brought a data that there was a policeman, a graduate, who had been there for 9 years without. I said, the recruitment is a private, they don't recruit graduates. Whoever enters graduates is illegal. So how could it be? Now, an A student in the village, the government has procedures for district quarter. And then there's also direct admission. So it would be suspicious unless this student got only A in maths and FFF in the rest. So the data that the congressman gives here leaves room for doubt. This student could not enter through a district quarter and could not enter through government. So you should not bombard us here with data that we can't verify. It misleads the audience.
Can I respond now before you proceed?
You not, and you like I did, and not when you were saying it. I also wanted to comment, which we already did, about the batch from the Bank of Uganda. We explained that that money actually is possible. Now, to query whether we paid our supplier and then the supplier took it to NUP, we don't know. When we were young, when we were young, we used to write on the money, and we wonder when it will come.
In the same box.
So now we don't even have the evidence that Dr. Besje is adducing that he has serial number from Bank of Uganda to State House, and it came here. Those are his words. There is no word against it. So we can't take it as gospel truth. That is Besje's word. The implication of FDC getting money, you ask that question to Sarah. My answer to that is that the implication is to show that NRM is a strong party,
very kind,
and sportsmanship, and we don't take our opponents as enemies, and therefore the voters should believe it in us. And the money, of course, is not prohibited. Under the prohibition of the law,
and it's public money.
Under the prohibition of the law, there is no. The prohibition is guarding Uganda against others. It is not internal among parties. If parties have regulations, if the parties have regulations,
using money.
If parties have regulations, I'm yet to know if they have regulation among intra-parties, among inter-parties. Now, that is my comment. Now, your question is
about what is happening in the FDC. Isn't it giving leeway for NUP to become even more powerful to challenge you in the next election?
I don't think so, because first of all, remember that by its origin, FDC came from NRM. So likelihood, including, you mentioned, Besje, Muntu, Rosindana, Wat,
system,
all those.
NRM system, not party, not party.
Don't
mislead viewers.
Thank you.
NRM system, not NRM, or don't mislead viewers.
So we think that these people can best come back home.
To the system.
Can just best come back home. So we are not worried. But also,
does that make NUP a more powerful force to face in the next election?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make, because there's no direct beneficiary from FDC. If in terms of numbers, we are sure that FDC Since they were our members, they'll come back to us. They were not from NUP, so why would they go to NUP? And besides, we are still seen as clear and pro-people mass party in the eyes of the voters.
All right, we are due for a short commercial break. To the viewers, just don't move your muscle and see you back. See you after this shortly.
The Citizens Chatroom happens every Friday at 2 p.m. on Civic Space TV Online on Facebook and YouTube. We invite you to be part of this conversation. Civic Space TV, freedom always.
We'll be back from that short commercial break. Well, we shall just continue. Joseph, you had some responses to make?
Yeah, just very quickly, clarification in the matter of in national interest. The police officer question I didn't respond to. I didn't know that which is taken so much serious, and I think I was also a bit unfair to the public. No, in fact, I said so at the time that the police officer joined, yes, as a private, and she had done her A levels, but she indeed went on to get her degree. But this is somebody who's with a degree, has spent more than nearly 11 years in the police with no promotion. This is the point I was trying to make, which is absolutely right in terms of the process for that. But we know people who join these organizations in the morning and the following day they're generals, including baby generals. We know what happens about some of these other things. So it's a commonsensical thing. And then too, when it comes to promotions, including police promotions, there's supposed to be boards. People are supposed to be tracked. I have managed staff, I've managed organizations, I've managed performances. These are things that happen as a matter of routine. In the police case, and particularly for a beautiful woman, now a mother of a teenager and things like that, who's done hard and worked very hard, and no, these are things that need to be talked about. And as I said, the patronage system that works under NRA has sunk this country. That was it. Yes, I want to repeat, this young guy feels into my heart. He got an A in mathematics, did not get Fs in other subjects. He got an A in mathematics. I did not say he got triple A's, but he got an A in mathematics, but it's languishing in the village.
All right, well, Doctor, at this point, what can salvage the FDC?
You know, FDC used to have strong internal mechanisms until this crisis happened, and then they failed to resolve it. The failure to resolve, when they have internal mechanisms, shows that their quality of leadership has gone low. Because constitutions or structures don't implement themselves. They work when the leaders have integrity and respect for the laws, for the regulations and structures. So what is manifesting in FDC, like we have all known it was a party cherished with internal mechanisms, is the degradation of leadership. They have hit their low moments with the low caliber leaders who don't have respect for their internal mechanisms, and they have failed. So the rupture we are seeing in the public is as a result of low caliber leaders who have no respect for internal mechanisms. The way out of this, I think internally they have exhausted their mechanisms. They are only waiting with the delegates conference. An inquiry, a whistleblower presentation was made, a committee set up, the whistleblower made his submissions, the committee failed. Like I said, for me, my observations were two. What the committee demanded, according to what Dr. Nabwiso has shared, is laughable. They failed to track the money trail of the party. They failed to attempt to inquire into what was shared with them in terms of whistleblower information. So the committee failed flat, in my view, on the problem they were trying to investigate. Then came the National Council, which was held amidst chaos after the siege of the chairman, whom we all watched climbing fences, jumping wires, and I was really scared for a 70-year-old man, first of all, to spend a day without eating, with no sugar levels at that age. He said he had medication to take, which he didn't take. And then the manner in which he was humiliated, jumping out of his own office as a party chairman. through the fence.
Can I ask a question on that, Doctor?
Yes.
Because you're speaking about the violence that we have seen happening at Naja and Nkumbi, how we have seen goons stationed at the gate and being so violent to anyone who is opposed to the Nandala power faction. For so long, there has been a narrative that NRM is the
party of the organization of goons,
something like that. They are the ones who are violent and all these things. I don't know. Is violence just in our political culture, and that it isn't just within the NRM or NUP, but it cuts across, given what we are seeing in the FDC, the intolerance and.
I want first of all lay a disclaimer that Ugandans are not violent people. We are known as hospitable people, as peaceful, as welcoming people. In the definition of Churchill's Part of Africa definition, it's not just about the physical features, it's about the people. We have ranked highly in the happiness index globally, but we have also lived an experience of Uganda's good people. There are some circumstances which bring out the worst, even in good people. So that happens normally out of operation. You can see, for example, a family of a widow and orphans. They will try to throw a stone at somebody grabbing their land because they have nowhere to go. I wouldn't define such people as violent. No.
It is circumstantial.
Yes. So, but we have people now whom we know use the tools of violence of the state to disadvantage other people, especially politically. Politically, we have a lot of political violence. The people who have guns bought by taxpayers, and they turn those guns on the same people, kill them, violate them
with the character
for political
with the character of Honorable
gains.
Nandala, if he was in the ruling party, do you think he would not be? Do you think you would be accusing him of the same things that you're saying right now?
So let me first come to the violence in FDC now. So when you have FDC had the biggest ideological crisis was before the departure of Muntu, which was defiance versus building structures. It was ideological, but it was deep. If FDC had violence in their DNA, we would have seen it at that contestation before Muntu's departure. Nobody pushed a blow on another. There was no punching, unless I missed it. I don't remember anybody throwing punches at another. That was contested, that was consuming, it was decisive, it was overwhelming. If FDC was violent by nature, they would have fought in Nambole during that election. What they are fighting now, they are fighting thuggery. Because that money is thuggery. It is not an ideological contestation. It is a thuggery contestation of FDC saying we are not going to do this in the party, and the other people saying we are following the money, kind of thing. So in that thuggery, if you are accused of bringing money, you have too much money, unknown, unaccounted for. You can hire goons, you can hire mafias, you can cross the headquarters, you can violate everyone, and that's what we witnessed. That's not I wouldn't take that as an official position of FDC. It is the thuggery they are fighting that is manifesting in that way it should be indeed. These are mafias. So how they can go forward having exhausted their internal mechanisms? They are only waiting with the one highest organ, which normally convenes to elect party leaders, the National Delegates Conference. I think that where issues have reached, in my view, FDC should look for a neutral, independent, respected mediator before they take the matter to the Delegates Conference. I would recommend the likes of Justice Egora to try and make sense of what is happening and see if they can calm down the storm. And if they can't, then they will go to the delegates conference, which is the highest organ in the party.
Okay. Moses, the delegates conference is comprised of elected leaders.
Yes, 5 from the district,
Yeah.
2 from the constituency.
All right. Currently, there are elections taking place. Are you participating? You as you.
As an individual, yes.
You're participating?
Yes, I have.
So meaning.
I have participated, and I've encouraged all young people, especially, to participate.
So meaning, to that extent, you are agreeing with the Nandala group that these elections
So what
must
have you
happen.
got so far?
I have
Must
looked.
happen.
Yes, my approach to politics. I'm like a long distance runner. I believe that FDC today is in this crisis, but I have tried to focus on some of the reasons why the crisis is up to this level. And I imagine that some of the leaders, some of the things is because some leaders are targeting getting particular positions. You know, we are in an election. And so, I imagine that when they've taken those positions, perhaps the storm shall calm down. The president and the secretary general are all serving their second and last term. Our constitution talks of 2 terms. So they are serving their last term. So when their term of office is over, they will get out and the party can be freed, if it were to be freed in the next 5 years.
Okay.
So being a young member in the party...
How about the concerns that are being raised by the other side?
Yes.
These elections are being conducted in the fraudulent manner.
Yes.
There is no voter register. There is no all these things that are required by law.
Because of the pressure we have been mounting, the other side has also not been so adamant. It has tried to give in somehow. For example, they have released the second roadmap to say that those districts which did not vote last time, when we had rejected, have now an opportunity to vote. And I think starting today, they were registering members at village level. In the next 2 days, there will be election at village level, and they will start to progress. They have also tried to concede to ensure that they bring everyone on board. Now, I want to use this opportunity to try and make the viewers of Civic Space TV understand something about my approach. You know, for 20 years I have been here. The party is about 16, 17 years. But I mean, since 2001, I have been in this effort. There is some knowledge, there is some experience, there are some skills I have gathered over time. There is a way I am able to see and look at things. I also have the competence to try and predict events, especially given what I know about particular individuals within the party that I've worked with all these years. I have looked at this situation and weighed options, including the view that my participation will be to give credence to a sham process. But I told you I am a long distance runner. And I think that there is, along the way, we will be able to free this party. Because look, I'm 41 years. I used my energy during the walk to work. I can't now be thinking of belonging to another political party. I am glad on my right is Comrade Joseph Ochieno. UPC, I like UPC because it has got those cadres. I used to find them opposite Sham Towers. At that, is it?
Uganda's.
Yeah, I think, no, at Uganda, there's some restaurant opposite. It used to be Chinese.
Slow
boat, yes. Behind there under the mango trees. There are those UPC cadres. Up to date, you find the man there in his gray hair is putting in a red shirt. No matter what has happened with their party, it has not deterred them. Because for them, they know individuals could have crossed to work with Museveni, but this is what the UPC party was. And that is who I am. There is the FDC that I've fought for. There is the FDC that I've gone to Rosara for. I know that's not the FDC that Nandala and Power are taking to Mr. Museveni. That FDC we will have to free it. It might take us weeks, months, or years. But we will work round the clock to free it, for as long as God gives us life. That is why in this campaign, I've particularly tried to reach out to friendly young people across the country. And I'm telling them, go for those positions. Go for those positions and make sure that you become delegates. Let's come and meet these guys. Yes, we know they have the money, they have the state backing. Let's see who takes the day in November. If they are lucky and they survive, we will count their years. They will exit, we will stay with our party. We are still here.
What have you got?
Because just
Chairman, no, district level now?
Moses.
You went in for the election. Have you been elected a district chair?
No, my district, Rukunjiri, is one of those that had rejected the process. So hopefully we will start tomorrow.
So you haven't gone through election yet?
No. Different districts have gone at different stages, yes.
Okay, just clarity on one thing, because the issue is being raised by the Semuju Nganda side is that what the Amoriats are looking for is legitimacy.
Yes.
They want to be office bearers as we approach the next general election, which gives them legitimacy to do what you are accusing them of selling the party to the NRM. So aren't you in fact aiding their mission by participating in the so-called sham elections?
Two answers to that. First of all, regarding legitimacy. You know, we have raised the same argument against the Museveni organized election. But do you know why, even when we know we are giving Museveni legitimacy, do you know why we go into that election? Because they are witches, closed all the other avenues of us reaching out to people. And it is only through the general election that you are able to reach out to people, even still with inconvenience, but at least you can explain it. All the other avenues, while the political parties and organizations act, gives us as political parties to go out, sell cards, hold rallies, open party branches, elect leaders. Every time we try to do that, you have had our leaders being pulled out of the radio stations. So every time we try to do that, we meet a lot of challenges. So we try to take advantage of an electoral season when the world is focusing on Uganda, when they are election observers, but also when the government is a little shy, to try and reach out to people, because that's the only opportunity that we have. Coming back to FDC, yes, there could be a question of you are giving legitimacy to these guys in their sham process. But I'm looking at both short-term and long-term. The focus of Nandara and power is short-term. That's why they are willing to kill for them to maintain the offices that they have. And I'm telling the viewers that these guys may be lucky and survive in November in the delegates conference and retain those offices. But they are serving their last term, and we are still here. The party is still here. We have undergone numerous challenges bigger than these. Maybe not in terms of leadership crisis, but the party has survived bigger waves. We will survive even this. Now, what my senior brothers and sisters are saying, particularly like Honorable Semuju and the road mayor, it's not that I don't see their points. I've been one of those. Before the National Council that recently happened, I was one of the team that was sent on the ground in Western Uganda. And me and my other colleagues met all leaders of 39 districts that compose Western Uganda. What were we telling them? First of all, to brief them on the political situation as it is in the party, but also to have them focus their attention on the key issues that we wanted. One of them, the electoral roadmap should be suspended because it is hurried, there is a haste, and it does not reflect the values that we've always fought for. Secondly, that the Electoral Commission is not only illegal but incompetent, and it is being used as it is twisted to serve the interests of the people who are in power. Those were two of our major demands during the National Council. But as you notice, Nandra Mafabi and Amriat employed gangster politics at the National Council. And so council literally did not take place. It was a march of shouting and fists. Those were short term, but I'm looking at long term. We are going to have different approaches. I have told the viewers here that my approach to this crisis is that we should try and rally young people who are not part of this crisis, but who are stakeholders in this party, whose parents lost property, young people who have lost opportunities because of their belonging to this party. That's the issue. It's now time for them to come up and rally themselves and try to be the voice of reason amongst this confusion that is taking place. And for me, that's my attention. That's where I want to put my energies. Yeah. My senior colleagues can also continue with their approaches. All we want is to be able to flee our mighty party that we love so much.
All right, fair enough. Joseph, as we wrap this up and move to the EC roadmap, is that the question of money, just to close this up, is that the concerns that is partly being raised by those who are opposed to Katonga is that Kizza Besigye has been a candidate for the FDC for a long period of time. And he has always had, okay, not sufficient money, but he has had resources to facilitate his campaign. No one came out to ask where this money was coming from. But now when it is someone else who is the party...
By the way, let me just clarify. Sorry to interrupt my very senior.
Sure.
Within the party, until recently, within the party, because we have the other aspect of prohibited sources, all sources of money in the party are declared. The question is to who? But there is the finance committee, there is that inner circle that must know where money was coming from. Indeed, all money that Besigye was mobilizing, like the last election, I think he mobilized about 5 billions, according to official records. He mobilized 5 billions. But that money, he brought it, presented it, indicated sources, and also they agreed within the finance committee or that working committee on how that money should be spent. It is brought into the party, deposited on the party coffers. It is appropriated by the party organs according to their budgets. So it is not true. It is not true for someone to say nobody was asking where Besigye was getting the money. No, questions were always asked where Besigye was getting the money, and he answered them. And that record is there.
Did he indicate others as confidential source?
No. The decision for confidential is for public.
Yes,
but the committee must know.
There is the committee that must know. So and the committee has always known.
So he never declared to the committee confidential source.
No, but what
we are saying that there is nothing like confidential.
There is nothing confidential in the committee.
My question is to the committee, not to the public. My question is to the committee. Did he not say there are others which were confidential?
There is no confidential. There was no confidential.
Fine.
And just to clarify, so on this occasion...
By the way, over to you.
Indeed. So this particular dirty money comes in and it's not declared.
It did not even come in.
It did not come in.
When the money came, it went to Chambogo. Yes, it went to Chambogo. And it was disbursed. They began disbursing it in Chambogo. That is why even the consignment that we officially know of Besigye also came from Chambogo.
Chambogo is a home or
the FDC members know what Chambogo is.
But you're talking to ordinary.
So Joseph,
Chambogo is the home of the Honorable. That's where the Honorable Nathan Ananda has his office. Yeah. So that's where money was being disbursed.
A private office?
Yes, a private office.
So why is he complaining about Katonga? Okay.
Joseph, my question was that
I love that.
One flag bearer is able to attract funding to sustain a presidential campaign. The other candidate can barely find money to even pay agents. Is it peculiar? Is there a mismatch? Is there some dishonesty? Or it is purely on the charisma of one candidate versus the other? That the ability for Kizza Besigye to attract that money is about his charisma, which perhaps some other candidate did not have. Or there is something that we are not talking about.
No, in principle, it's both actually. And we need to be realistic about it. The person and personality of Kizza Besigye, the history and track record of Kizza Besigye, in particular how he emerged from about 1999, will mean that he will be taken seriously, perhaps more seriously than many other people around the country, both in and outside his political organization. And as is hinted, it is also possibly the case that there are many people from with whom he was in NRM that would possibly be kind enough and generously support, but in a good way.
From
there will be individuals who will support individuals who can support political parties and organizations and individuals across the political divide without prejudice. Let's not make it complicated, because here the issue is very quite clearly dirty money that seemingly has come allegedly from a very specific source for a very specific purpose. So that makes it really, really, really very complicated. I think to suggest that maybe an FDC leader does not sit down for a breakfast with somebody who's in NRA and the person in NRA pays the bill. That would rather perhaps goes too simplistic. This sort of the kind of thing I'm trying to say, including perhaps, that, well, you're coming to campaign in my constituency, you can use my public office. Or perhaps, I shall waive the cost of your appearance on a particular
No, you can
commercial
stay in
program,
my
something
house.
like that. You can stay in my house. I have been made offers, and thankfully not from NRA, but from friends from other political organizations, including when you come to my town, you can stay in my hotel, something like that. I must say, since about declaration, that I have not really taken note of many of these things. So these things do happen. So they're not the issue. The issue is on this particular occasion, money, including something I've just clarified at this material time, that money comes in, does not go into the former pot, and is not explained. And as I say, it turns out that in this case, Kizza Besigye gets to know and to ask more about it, and the explanation is inconclusive. It's actually very unfortunate. I hope that as our friends in the FDC are sorting out internal processes, even pre-delegates conference, they're possibly in a slightly better position than we ended up in UPC, although I said ours was a different situation because they are different. Ours was very interesting the way these NRA fellows worked. Once Olara was preparing the process of delegates conference, matters got so bad at an early stages, even before delegates conference, where the district conferences were the ones which allegedly were compromised and they came out with results which were contested. That's 2015. As a result of that, before Lara could call, official as president, called delegates conference for constitutions, and rules differ from party to party, Jim McKenna, who had garnered at the time, questionable, but garnered the majority of the district delegates, went ahead and called for a delegates conference against the provision of the party, but now backed by these questionable situations and backing against powers. So Jimmy holds that delegates conference. The Olara side of the party challenges it, and then they go to court. It's a fair, open thing, and court actually sides with the Olaras that no, Jimmy hasn't been, did not do the right thing, so he cannot call himself president. Jimmy then goes on to appeal. I'm using this basically leading to where Jimmy goes to appeal, and the appeal is lodged in January 2016. From 2016, this thing is basically held hostage, as if it's some kind of Luwero Kabamba surround, from 2016 to 2020. By 2020, Jimmy had served the equivalent of one term. He was already even prepared to call another delegates conference. The appeal is hard.
Overtaken by events.
Court says that, don't have your delegates conference, which is due on Saturday. Jimmy still continues with the second delegates conference. Weeks later, it's ruled definitively that he's not a leader, but fresh elections be held by the party. Fresh election was held by the party. Jimmy doesn't participate. That's the election in which I have participated. This is the quagmire. As it happened, 9th was 2 days ago, when I should have had the definitive ruling in one way or another. Meaning, you can see how this system, is it the regime, is it the judiciary, or what is it holding now, UPC strangling it in that way. Party members, they're not in any way, party members are prisoners, most party leaders are prisoners, but particularly partisan individuals are playing around, and so you don't know which arm is pushing into this. For FDC,
if I may say something,
yes,
the situation you just described is similar to money grabbing, land grabbing games. So long as somebody takes possession of your land, you can't even go to court to get an injunction, because an injunction is to maintain a status quo. And that's what Jim McKenna as the president, then they rule against you. Of course, you are imposing yourself. Courts rule against you, the term is ending, and you get no remedy. The same way now the FDC headquarters is almost out of reach for people who are demanding accountability. They've taken possession. If you went to court for an injunction, you stay out. So it's a kind of thing.
Yeah, and so my hope really is that looking at our mess, which is now 7 years effectively coming to 8 years, in that quagmire, much more simplistic. The members, the detail is very clear that the particular individual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they're able and capable of holding the party hostage for all this long.
And the party is non-functional.
Indeed, and the party is non-functional. Now, in your case, as a matter of interest, if you go through the process of this election, and then you go to the supreme organ, which is the delegates conference, members genuinely, legitimately come and able to freely participate and express themselves. Whatever determination comes out of the delegates conference is supreme, and that may or may not include, election of new leaders. And fingers crossed, you are actually able to shoot post the delegates conference as a political party going forward, depending on whether it's the old leader, the former leader, whoever, if they're able to unite the party and rally the party and then reconcile the party and then put in a program which is sensible enough to push the party forward. So that sort of for you guys should be, in my opinion, the route. And I hope if that's what happens, you are a slightly luckier situation than sort of where we are as a party. Likewise, of course, talking about dirty money, we don't know. I sometimes sympathize with the DP, and yet for me, I'm in prison myself. I don't know what the state is in DP. We know what Mao is the super minister, and his members of parliament are neither here nor there. And Mao is receiving, as according to which, very clean money because new notes,
there's no dust.
New sharp Land Cruiser these days. My brother puts on very sharp suits. Nobody's always been smart, but you can see some of these days, man. Showers and sometimes. Anyway, they'll say, you're jealous, but no, dirty money is terrible money,
Well, we need to shift gears a bit and talk about
something on the last one?
Yes, I will give you a chance because I'm not beginning with you actually. The Electoral Commission has laid it clear, the roadmap to 2026. There are voices that came out to say that shouldn't this time be about the midterm evaluation of NRM's performance? You made promises to the country, and you're midway towards the end of your term of office. Shouldn't this time be about you making accountability to Ugandans? And now, forcing us to think about the next election, couldn't it be a bit of too soon, or even, if I'm to use the word, diversionary?
As ever.
Thank you so much, but I still, within a minute, I will comment on two things. First, the violence in the FDC. Please, NRM is not connected to it. We are not.
The
In fact,
police
even at
failed
the
to rescue
some of us
Ambassador
just
Viloka.
here. So remove NRM from the violence. We can't go down to organize goons or support it. The other thing is confidentiality clause. You see, here, I think the thinking is that there is unfairness on one candidate where you put him to strict proof of the source, and another candidate you don't put him to strict proof. I know that even during BSG, there are confidentiality provision which even the committee don't know. For example, if there are some Indians in town who have contributed money, but they have told BSG, we are contributing you this money, but we are businessmen. Please don't release our name. BSG can give that money and say, this money I've got from friends, it is confidential.
You have refused to understand that there is a committee by
even
practice.
to the committee, I'm saying, you see the committee, I have understood. Even in parliament, there's what is called classified budget. There's a committee which does it. But what I'm saying, even to this committee, I am sure that there are people whose names are not declared.
In the class, in the
committee, in your committee, in the party.
No, you have used a very good example.
Yes.
Parliament has got a committee that deals with classified
and it does
budget.
everything.
You see?
Yes.
But
in
when they go in that committee, there is full and open declaration.
Yes.
The same applies to FDC. That's the practice.
Sure?
Yes, that's what it means.
And
there are people who must know. There are people who must know. Otherwise,
it's like
what if you get money
expenditure?
From? Yes, what if
my
you get
friend
money from
there is that, but it is his word against my word.
Yes,
he says it is his word is the committee basically declares everything, including seeing somebody who was given. That is what he's saying. I am saying no. So when I say no, I am saying you are giving two different standards. Strict proof to one candidate, strict proof to another. But if your view is Besigye declares all Mr. Singh and somebody, then that is, we take it as a position. But I am saying it is not. So you should not want to say you're democratic when you actually subject two different candidates to two different strict proof. That's what I'm saying. So midterm valuation. Midterm valuation is in our best interest because we have always said that we got the mandate of the people on the manifesto that we gave. So we want people to judge us. And also for us as a party, we formed a government. We also want to judge government. Remember, when you win election, you form a government, you kind of get divorced. The accounting officers become so independent and too strong. It's not like in a communist party, not even in Tanzania, CCM, or even in ANC. Some of these parties, when they form government, parties are in control. Okay? But for us, our system is the party wins election and throws it to the civil servants, which is unfair to us. So the call for valuation is as much a call for us in the party. In fact, right now, we have even put a provision that no ministry is going to get a loan unless okayed by the secretariat. Why? Because we don't want a ministry to get a loan along the way and you're doing something which is not synchronizing with the manifesto. So the call for a midterm is okay. And we have been doing it. We had actually wanted all government departments to give quarterly review of what their performance is. If in the manifesto we had said we're going to make 1,000 kilometers of tarmac road, this time, how many have you made? If we are told Ministry of Health that we're going to build these hospitals this way, how have you built? How many? So the call for valuation is a valid call and it's a goal for us. However, the Electoral Commission is an independent body. There has been a lot of call for non-functionality of independent bodies in the country. IGG, DPP, Human Rights Commission, all that. Sometimes they say they are not functioning to the extent that they are being influenced. So for us, we are saying, fine, valuation can go on, but Election Commission to go on a motion of their own, it's good enough for us. It shows the functionality of an organization, an independent body, and we wish others are doing it. And it does not conflict. It is not mutually exclusive with valuation, and it does not push away the criticisms. If anything, the party is more interested in the criticism because we have handed this work to the government. Remember that if a PS diverts money from PDM, for example, is a permanent secretary, is a civil servant. When we go to the Andachi, to the trenches during 2026, a civil servant says, I'm not a civil servant, and yet is the one who diverted the money. So valuation is much as our call as a party than anything, but they are not mutually exclusive. Election Commission has activities which should be done now, which cannot wake up at the last moment. It is good that they unleash their plan now. It is good that they start running through, and it is good that the citizens know, and we believe that that is a show of a functionality of an independent body.
All right, independent body to me is the key word because a referee should be impartial. Dr. Sarah, the EC has put out the roadmap. What should we expect? Should we expect something new in 2026?
Well, the roadmap as an exercise is welcome. My problem or my reservations is that it's a tick box exercise without reflections on the conduct and nature of elections in the country, without reforms. I know that reforms were mentioned during the launch, and the reforms that would deliver elections as envisaged under Article 1, Clause 4 of the Constitution, free and fair, credible elections, are not just legalistic. We need both legal and institutional reforms if we are to attain the elections envisaged in the Constitution under Article 1, 4, 60, 61, and other attendant articles. The first act on the roadmap, other than consultations of interest groups, is the demarcation of polling areas. In the previous election, people were thrown in polling centers they had no idea about, and some could not access. That act also repeats itself as we are collectively observing elections in Zimbabwe. There's an article that went viral 2 days ago on how even couples are voting in different districts. So you find this is a couple, man is going to vote in Wakso, and they live in Kampala, and then the wife is going to vote in Entebbe. And in rural areas, we know the challenges, first of all, with information, the challenges with transport, and these are deliberate acts that authoritarian regimes do to defranchise voters. There was also a mention of creation of new constituencies and administrative units that I want to also pronounce my reservations on. We have a bloated administrative structure as a country. We should actually be narrowing down. I know that it's not the power of Electoral Commission to narrow down our bloated administrative structure that is basically for patronage, political patronage purposes, but to entice a discussion on creation of new ones, I think really is out of order. Electoral Commission should budget for structures as is. It would have been the wish of some of us and the people that the structures are narrowed down, but we should not entertain any discussion of creation of new constituencies, creation of new cities, creation at the time where we can't meet our costs. We can't afford it. Even if we were to afford it, then the rich countries would have every citizen as an MP. Really, it is political carelessness, it is political redundancy, and nobody should entertain such thoughts in our kind of economic situation. What should then the actors do? We are going into this discussion on the backdrop of a crisis in one of the major political players, the FDC. So in a normal situation, first we need closure. Parliament, missing persons, electoral violence, this debate has taken long in the House. We need closure on the previous elections, including accountability on who killed people. We need that as a nation. We need closure on the role of the army, because we do not have elections in a true sense of elections. We have a military operation that is highly vulgarized with men and guns. We need a discussion. If this is what the current leadership can offer, I would even be comfortable to say let's not do it. Stay in power until we get a new leadership that can offer Ugandans elections worth their name and sovereignty as a people. So we need this discussion. We need to see the parties now who are the major players in elections getting prepared with their internal processes to prepare for elections. But that also requires the opening up of political space. That when Mr. Ochieno goes to campaign, Mr. Ochieno can go and make a rally in Bushenyi with no police bundling people on pickups and violating them. We need freedoms for Byamchisha to go to campaign in Guru. And nobody is firing.
But he has just
bullets.
told you that he has been traversing the entire Western Uganda, 39 districts.
Like a thief.
Those are indoor meetings, Kakuyega meetings. I'm talking of rallies.
So,
why am I talking of rallies? No.
given?
But did you make any rally?
No, these are meetings.
Can opposition make rallies?
Okay, what is the point? Is it about having a rally or meeting the people?
It doesn't matter. Political parties work through rallies. We are not going to dictate and say go and meet people under the bridge. It doesn't matter where you meet them. It's like giving somebody food
does it matter
and telling them to eat from a toilet. Why do you serve people food?
Does it matter which kind of meeting organization
so
is suppressed?
Choose.
It shouldn't.
Well, if we have political freedom in this country, let people choose how they want to access people. But largely, it is common knowledge that political parties work through rallies because of the numbers they are envisaged to meet. And the space should be open for walk-in, for invites, for whoever wants to listen. You cannot achieve that through a studio. You need to be in an open space. So let's not dictate to say, go and meet people in your house. That is the political freedom by NRM. No. So we need these political freedoms in the country for stakeholders to engage.
Joseph, the issue of the independence of the Electoral Commission has come out so many times. Moving towards the next election, do we see a more independent institution?
No, Sarah's answered it all, really. You know, those are some of the conversations we ought to be having. If you see even how Simon presented this thing the other day, it was basically not his thing. No, I wasn't invited. And I was extremely disappointed that Simon Byamukama could disregard the oldest political party in this country, the last political party to have held, you know, a government before these funny guys came from the bush. You know, the matters that should actually be relating to him, the possibility that actually be considering to serve him in a lawsuit, including some of the things that he's been doing, you know, or his commission has been doing involved in our political party, is absolutely disrespectful.
But UPC was there.
But their friends were there, but not UPC. And as I said, these are small things. I told another network the other day, sir.
So
I'm answering. I'm trying to.
Then UPC isn't there.
Was the faction
No, that's simplistic. I mean, I saw Jimmy's person there, but
the
issue is whether
Bill
or not
was there. He even spoke
at the
as the Secretary General of UPC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of you guys are lawyers, and so every time I've been wasting my time here in the last 10 months talking about the very same thing. I'm simply saying that, well, Jim is not clearly elected, and I don't know how you guys sneaked through some of these I don't like even which I don't know how you sneaked through the same time. You know. So no, quite clearly, you know, the Court of Appeal has ruled that Jim is not president. You know, Court of Appeal ruled that Jim is not president. Court of Appeal asked that the party should hold fresh elections. So whatever happens, whether I'm president or not, and does not matter who it is, Jimmy is definitely not president. So if these funny guys went to the bush, do they want us to go to the bush?
So is a bill's position also in question? A bill as Secretary General?
It's a product of a flawed process.
Okay, fair
enough. Do you know, I think Museveni and this system are really stretching us. And for me, I've been rather patient for a very long time, really 30 years. Some of the things that include the witches here. People think that they're the only experts at alternative means. People think that they're the only experts at violence. No. For us in UPC, we simply said, and I'm one of those people who said with Milton Obote, that we are opting to give these guys a chance, partly because we love your lives as Ugandans more than we love ourselves. So the Musevenis think that now they've held on to these things, they've held on to the national coffers, they can pull money from State House, from the Treasury, take it to State House, use it in a particular thing, use our guns to beat up people, use public intelligence to mobilize and disorganize people. No, they actually think some other people don't have other options. No, we do. We're just clever enough, and we're just decent enough, and we're just Ugandan enough not to opt for other means.
All right, fair enough. Moses, as per the confessions of Dr. Kiza Besigye, he said that the previous election found the FDC not prepared, and Amriat was a last-minute candidate.
Emergency candidate.
Yes. We are mid-term, and the EC has put out the roadmap. The stage has been set. Again, it finds you bickering internally. Will you be ready by then?
Good question. I think, you know, even internally, we are having a debate trying to shape a direction regarding elections. And we've had strong voices, both pro and against. And so that is likely to affect our preparedness. We only need to wait and see whether the leadership that will be there at that time will be one that would lead people into a general election. If FDC is lucky to have me as its party president, we will not be nominating a candidate for president in 2026.
Why?
We have exhausted that option. I would want to provide leadership to a party that is looking at reshaping itself to the realities of the political situation we find ourselves in, but not to play into the game of Mr. Museveni and where there are no any dividends. The people's government is a product of an election that we feel we won by 51.6%, and we were never allowed to take up that chance. That's why we decided to swear in our own president. That's why we decided to form a government, and it has its headquarters in Katonga. But maybe some of these things will exhaust them when the right time comes. But looking particularly at the roadmap shared by the Electoral Commission, you know, if we knew that this was an independent Electoral Commission, that means well for Ugandans, that is going to conduct a free and fair electoral process, that it even has capacity to announce results as they have come in, we would applaud them. We would applaud them for coming out early, sending messages to everyone, please get ready, get ready. We would applaud them. But this is an electoral commission that has a record of doing the opposite of what their mandate is. An electoral commission that has no mind, that doesn't have any independence, that is twisted. And so I will be honest with you that I've not even looked at their roadmap, because I know it doesn't make sense. They are here, they have even failed to organize elections for LOCs. And for me, by the way, an LOC one chairman is more important than an RDC. People like RDC, people like, I don't want to talk about his office because he's next to me. But some of those things don't make sense to us. At least an RDC is able to mobilize a village, to open to an LOC, yes. An LOC is able to mobilize a village to do Burunji Bwansi on their road. But these are the things that we see up here that are simply intended to create offices for people. They don't make sense. So I have no any kind words for the Electoral Commission and their roadmap.
Retired Major, the issue of the independence of the EC it has become a notorious question that I think we must be able to address. In your own words, do you think that the process through which someone becomes a commissioner, for example, ought to be reviewed? That there should be maybe more public interest in the process through which someone becomes the chair of the EC? Because as it is now, there is not so much public participation. So basically, how can we be able to instill trust in Ugandans? More trust, if it is insufficient, for them to believe that the EC has capacity to deliver a free and fair election?
Good. I've written the question and I will answer it very well. But just a comment about a few other things. The comments has been talked about the army in election. Honestly, of late, good enough, President Museveni has instituted investigation on the latest mishaps in elections. But I like to say that for us as a party, the army has not done anything. Like, YAM, or even in Bukedia, we strongly believe that there are other people who put on military uniform and do mischief. So it is not fair to say the army is involved.
So
but investigation is ongoing.
But do you know what that means? You're saying that the people who have capacity to put on our military uniform and perpetrate crimes.
Yes.
Isn't that even more worrying?
But that is why in a district like Bukedia, the RDC was arrested, the DPC was arrested, a Gizman was arrested. Because how can people put on military uniform in a district when the RDC and the DPC were there? That is why those arrests were made.
But also that confirms the source of goons.
Doing what?
Who has a monopoly over goons?
Okay.
I am saying this is a mischief which we are condemning, and the chairman of a security in a district is the RDC. How can this happen? That would mean if it happens successfully, we condone it. That's why the RDC is arrested. That's why the DPC is arrested. That means that we don't allow and perpetuate that kind of thing. So the army, please, let's leave the army out of this. Freedom of rallies, I think the law is clear about how we conduct ourselves in rallies. And I think incidences where there has been clashes, it is in a contravention of the law. The other thing I want to comment is our colleagues in the other parties, when they win election, Electoral Commission is okay. When they lose, they are not. And it goes to the same thing in judiciary. We have had multiple election petitions where movement candidates have lost. There they praise judiciary. We have had multiple elections where we win. There the judiciary is not fair. But that is how society is. About my office, I was fearing to comment about it. My office, you don't need to comment about it. It's a private office. It's a party office. So you cannot be comparing LC office, RDC, and mine. Mine is my party office. What business do you have to do about it? Whether it is fake or not, it is for the party. It's not a public office. It's a party office. So you have no business going to say whether FDC put director research, and you say, why have you put director in research in FDC? It's your business. So you really don't need to comment about my position. Yes. Now, the independence of Electoral Commission. You see, we have had this argument, partly academic, partly realistic. Even at the national level, there's the theory of the independence of the three arms: judiciary, legislature, and executive. You want to say parliament is independent, and they should do it independent. But they go to Matia Kasaija, the executive, to get money. You'd want to say judiciary should be independent, but the appointment comes from the president. So there is a school of thought which says the independence are theoretical. Now, in the case of the appointment of chairman Electoral Commission, who do you want to interview? There have been precedents cited from Kenya. Even if you take it to a public verification, you take it to parliament, it will still have to be appointed by somebody, which is the president. So, but for us, we are saying the position that it is now is sufficient. But if there's school of thoughts which think of more transparent way, we are not hard and frozen. The law is static. But as it is, we thought that the constitution, by subjecting these people to parliamentary scrutiny and being appointed by the president, it does. Because even, I don't see, even in Kenya, you scrutinize them publicly and what, but at the end of it, the appointment is again signed by the president. This is how theoretical we go about the division of the organs of the body. But if somebody thinks we can do it anyway, we are not about it, we are not frightened, we don't think we have Electoral Commission which favors us. So, we are not hard and frozen on the law. Whoever feels he can come up with a proposal, let them come, and it will be discussed.
All right, fair enough. Doctor, as we try to put this to bed, is the question of electoral reforms. The Honorable Norbert Mao has, been quoted to say that, he's intending to bring up electoral reforms prior to the next election. In your own view, what are some of these reforms that we should be focusing on as a country?
Yeah, thank you so much. Honorable Mao has been talking on his readiness to table reforms for now 1 year, because I think he was celebrating 1 year of his marriage with NRM. And so I don't know whether you will expect them in next week, next month, or next year, because he has been saying he's ready and we haven't seen them. The same applies to the appointment of the Constitutional Review Commission. In 2015, the civil society actors, together with the other pro-democracy actors, consulted countrywide and came up with the Citizens Compact on electoral reforms. It's a blueprint on the desired reforms that the country should enact according to the consultative process to be able to afford us a true meaning of elections as a country. Honorable Norbert Mao was part of this process. He's a signatory to the compact on free and fair elections. As a quick list of some of the key recommendations, one of the key recommendations is in the appointment of commissioners at the Electoral Commission. It is not simplistic as a co-panelist Afanda Wichi seems to put it. If you look at the Kenyan experience of appointment of public officials, first is the advertisement. The jobs are advertised, including the Chief Justice. Jobs are advertised. Jobs are publicly competed for. Interviews are public, televised. The public is allowed to bring in petitions as far as the integrity of the shortlisted people is concerned. And then those who pass interview are passed on for appointment, for confirmation. So it is not as simplistic as saying there is no big difference. There is a difference. If my name is proposed, the public is invited to bring petitions on whether those who think I don't qualify. And those petitions are investigated.
They are brought in parliament.
Which process? This one where even media is not allowed. Please, Fanda, which you have your time, you take notes. So, this is the process. Public advertising, public competition, public vetting, and then the best candidates in terms of experience and integrity is concerned. They don't look at one issue of a CV. They look at integrity and public perception. So this is the process that we recommended and we think that if electoral commissioners were, confirmed through such a process, they would serve the interests of Ugandans as compared to the interest of the appointing authority, like the case is today. The next reform is on the role of security agencies. Security agencies, it goes beyond the army, but we all know the mess the army has created, especially in the last elections, the November 18th, 19th Kampala killings. The army formed our own version, similar to the United States 9/11. Ours is 1911. Nobody has ever accounted for those murders of Ugandans, including young children who were in secondary schools. Very unfortunate. Who shot them? There are people who are shown on camera on the documentary by BBC. They have never been brought to book. Very unfortunate. We know the disruptions the army creates to defranchise opposition in this country. We did a pictorial coverage of the last election from nomination to announcement of results. If you look at it today, you even get more traumatized and you might wonder how we went through such a chaotic election. People shot at, candidates arrested. When General Mchamuntu landed in Kasese to campaign, he was escorted out by the army. He was not allowed to speak to people. Even Katumba Amara, who was, Katumba Oye, I forget his other name. Katumba Oye, who was seemingly a government project, was also arrested in Guru. And the shootings at Bobo Wine's rallies, until what forced him to wear bulletproof as if he was in a war zone. We don't need such a kind of an election. If that's what it takes for President Museveni to keep power until he dies, let him stay there without elections instead of killing people to achieve his ends. We need to have a discussion on that. We need to discuss the role of RDCs, pulling people out of radio stations. RDCs are an extension of the security architecture in this country. They're heads of security in the districts. The way they conduct themselves during elections, commanding police to disperse rallies, pulling people out of, including paid up talk shows. That reckless abandon, as if a country is to whom it may concern to keep NRM in power. I think we can do away without this. Let people keep there instead of seeking legitimacy through blood.
Well, our time is fast spent, but I'll give us each 1 minute, but Major, I'll give you 2 minutes because I'm sure you have a response to make, but the rest of us, a minute each, and we can call this a day. So, Major, I'll begin with you as I come back this side. Your parting shots.
Just supplemental in that. Dr. Sarah says that when I compare the system in Kenya, make it simplistic. And one of the grounds he raises is that people don't have a way of bringing issues against the proposed candidate. But we have had in Parliament, for example, where Honorable Mbeza was nominated, issues were brought to the attention of the committee that he had a mental problem. He was never appointed. We had a person from Masaka who was appointed a minister. His academic paper was queried by members. Information came, he was rejected. Mayor Sebagala, who was nominated, issues came up from the public that he was not educated. So many of these things happen. So it is similar, applicable. But remember, a body like Electoral Commission, unlike the political body, tends to bring professionals. So at that level, at the nomination level, the appointing authority would have done due diligence. And that is why we don't attract negative, or we don't attract this kind of comments. So all these are in effect in place. But if you think that it's not as it is, we said we are flexible and it is not a frozen thing. Now the issue of reform itself. You know, reform has been an agitation from the opposition. As I said, for us, we think that the legal regime is sufficient. Now, this agitation, even now, if you ask them, where is this reform? This citizen pact, we don't know the procedures under which it went. What were the influence there too? It was not a government-initiated body. Now they want to bring it as their pact. So there should be a legally mandated process to generate a reform. Even now, when you ask, even government, I hear people talk about reform, but if you ask anybody, bring us one document called reform, it's in the rumors. But the door is open. Now, my last comment, because this is my last comment, right? We have handled the issue of the independence. We have handled the issue that of our brothers. My message to the people is that NRM is a fair party, and we shall always not take our opponents as enemies. We take them as competitors, and whoever comes with us with a broken car on the road and he wants a tire from us, we shall always donate that tire so that he continues to consult the people, and we do it in good faith. But only that I call on the voters and the people to know that a party that does that, like NRM, should be considered positively and given the fair chance and voted for. On the issue of the electoral roadmap, I thank the Electoral Commission for acting independently, and we call upon other independent bodies like Human Rights Commission and others to act independently and fairly, because at the end of the day, it is the interest of the Ugandans that matter, not the interest of political parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
Yes. To the viewers of Civic Space TV, first of all, thank you for being with us today. By God's grace, all factors constant, in September, I should be nominated to run for party president of FDC. The purpose is to enable me move around this country and meet the people that were part of the process of formation of this party, to be able to have a conversation with them on how we can resolve the crisis that we find ourselves in. I particularly call upon the young people, the young members of the party, to try and come up and offer leadership at those various positions. A lot has been lost in terms of blood, money, and time in building this party to where it is now. We shouldn't let it die. I still have confidence in the resilience of the FDC members that we shall be able to work hard and together and free this party. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm sitting with two presidents. President of FDC and one of UPC. I'm so honored.
Of course you are. And yours is a guerrilla chief, not a president. But there you go.
Yes, your last words, Joseph.
Um, I am delighted to be seated next to incoming president of FDC, and in the likely event that our positions are both resolved, mine is 3 years overdue. I will work with him and others to make sure that we show leadership in our respective political parties, but also across the democratic opposition, and to ensure that we then work with everyone else, including sensible people in NRA, so that we're able to grant hope and possibilities for the youth of this country. In so doing, as discussed today, that I hope that in our respective political parties, we shall be focusing on rebuilding systems in place to ensure that where there is conflicts, the internal mechanisms that apply applicable, so that most of these matters are resolved internally. And in the unlikely event that matters come out, that they're also done so in such a manner that there is leadership and focus in the interest of the political organizations, but remembering that whatever political party we are talking about and organizations is about the citizens of this country rather than individuals. And that when that happens, then we're able to be a good example, so that we're able to show the difference between ourselves and individuals who since 1966 have been pushing for themselves, me, myself, and I politics that has now turned into politics about themselves, their families, and their families, with a few hangers-on around them. But that whatever happens, young Ugandans particularly ought to know that any money that we are discussing, whether from the Electoral Commission, money is coming from State House, money is used to bribe people, monies that security agencies use, monies that Museveni uses to boss around with, money that Museveni's people use to boss around the country are our money. And in many cases, now that the rest of the world are beginning to review some of their positions, including the sweet money that used to come from IMF and World Bank, we need to be tightening our belts faster. So that means it's going to be much more expensive for us to pay back those monies in future. So Ugandans ought really to wake up, take responsibility, so that whatever happens, we hold those in positions of power to account. But to do so, we must be organized ourselves and make sure that whatever we do, we are doing it not for ourselves, but really for God and indeed my country.
Thank you. Yes, Doctor.
Just 2 things. First is to wish FDC gets out of the quagmire they are going through very fast, in order to prepare to as a vehicle for political competitiveness in this country. I wish they could resolve their crisis faster than it has so far taken. My second issue on elections is that elections belong to the people. It's their decision, like Abraham Lincoln stated. Any process that violates the decision of the people vulgarizes our constitution, mutates our constitution, takes us back to the preamble of the constitution, which is clearly captured in paragraph 3 of the preamble on our unstable, and chaotic political history as a country. We need to march out of that and enjoy the freeness, the fairness that credible elections bring, to enable the people to get the leaders of their choice. And I hope Justice Byabakama and team, if they are not up to the task, they can always resign. They are Ugandans who can offer this golden opportunity to their fellow citizens. I thank you.
Oh, thank you. Retired Major and Council, thank you very much for your time. Council Moses and FDC activist, thank you very much. Ideologue Joseph, thank you very much. Dr. Sarah and also Council, thank you for your time. Of course, to the viewers, it's always a pleasure having you every single Friday at 2 p.m. as we, break down the events happening in our country. Well, that is just it. Until next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye. And to the youth, of course, have a lovely International Youth Day.